Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear and see me. Many thanks for joining our webinar today. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Richard Bates. I'm Sales Director for EBS. We've been established for over 40 years. We're based near Birmingham and we're a Sage partner for well over 30 years. We've been working with the Sage 50 and Sage 200 products during that time, and we partner with Sicon, who we're joined with today, Steve Gemmett. The purpose of today's webinar is obviously to look at the Courier integration that Cycon have been working on. It's going to be a very top level overview of the product today, so around about 15-20 minutes. Obviously, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box or raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can ask those questions to Steve, put him on the spot. But enough about us. Obviously, I'll pass you over to Steve, who's going to show you the product now.
That's great. Thanks very much, Richard. Let's just check the technology is working first. So let me share my screen and hopefully you can see the Cycon website.
We can see that.
So in terms of the structure today, brief introduction to who Cycon are. Some of you may already know who we are, but for those of you perhaps who haven't come across us, we'll do that introduction. Then we'll look at we'll talk about where Courier integrations come from, a bit about the settings, and then we'll flow it through and see the output. Now, with it, a lot of stuff's happening in the background. So as I say, from the front end, looks not, we kept it nice and simple, but again, we'll run through that. So in terms of Cycon, we are classified by Sage as an ISV or an independent software vendor. Essentially, it means we're accredited to create add-ons for Sage 200, something the business has been doing for in excess of 20 years, and we only develop for Sage 200. As a business, we don't sell direct, we sell via Sage's partner community, where Richard and the team at EBS have been a long-standing partner of ours, working on those implementations. So what does that mean from your perspective? Well, you've got the core Sage product, which is sold and supported directly by EBS. We wrap around that in terms of we've got more agility than Sage to handle more vertical specific elements by us selling through EBS as well. Essentially, they become your central point of contact for handling all of it. Now, in terms of the integration, actually, it's that seamless. You will not necessarily know where Sage stops, Cycon starts, for example. So again, it's a very successful business model with Sage and the ISVs and the partner community, and hopefully we'll be able to show you that as we go through the demonstration today. Now, the reason for starting on the Cycon website is there's a wealth of information on here. Just in the top left-hand corner, you've got the Courier integration. We're not going to track you. Feel free to visit the website after today. And as you scroll down, there's some descriptions. And there's also a link to the help and user guide just up here with some screenshots and descriptions of the features and functions. So what is Courier integration? What is it not? Well, it's actually one of our newer solutions. And it was designed mostly because of demand from customers saying, well, especially around barcoding and warehousing, if you've got a Courier integration. Now, we'd always planned to create one, and we launched this in November of last year. So it is still very much in its infancy. So we've got a number of clients using it at the moment. We've got a list of couriers that currently integrate, but we're aware that there's a lot out there. And as we onboard more customers and get their requirements, providing we can connect to their API, and I'll talk a bit more about that shortly, then we will be adding additional ones onto this. So all the setup actually begins in Sage. So you'll have Cycon Courier integration installed. Now I'm actually going to demonstrate this alongside a barcoding solution today, because that's how my system's configured, but you can use it standalone without barcoding should you wish. And it's very simple. So first things first, in terms of the settings, and again, this will become more complex, I'm sure, as we get additional customer requirements, but there's just some printer options. So for example, with Royal Mail and Palletways, you've got a couple of different orientations, so we can choose the orientation there. My demo today, I'm actually you're going to see it pop up on the barcoding handheld, so I can select what the delivery service is going to be, just to make it a bit more visual. But you can actually switch that off and you can set that on the sales order, or we can actually link up into Sage's delivery options that you've got, and again we'll talk on those as well. In terms of the integrations, if I just click on add, you can see the ones that we're currently integrating with. DPD. Now, the reason my demo's linked to DPD is because we've got access to a test account to be able to link to it. The challenge is in terms of creating these. First one is, has the courier that you want to work with, do they have an API that we can connect to, so a web API? If they do, that makes things nice and easy, because that's kind of a big tick. Now, of course, we need to look and make sure we can send across and read back the relevant information, but that's a big first step. Now, the challenge we have is a lot of them, as I say, don't have a test or dummy account that we can connect to, which is why we're not proactively adding them. We need customer details. So as we get more customers, we've got the customer details, we can write that. That's kind of just to give you an idea there. But if you have got couriers that you currently work with, again, send them through and we can have a look at that. In terms of the setup, so my system is going to be DPD, and again, you only have to configure this once in your company. So you're going to have your live API, you've got username and passwords. In this instance, what label printer we're going to print the courier labels to, and the format. So for DPD, it's HTML. We can set some default weights as well. And then because we're linked to DPD, being able to add in additional delivery services as well. So these are all of the services that we're pulling down from the API that they can offer within the system here, and then the default weights as well. So that's how I've got my system set up. The next bit of configuration I mentioned. So for those of you currently using Sage 200, you've got additional charges that you can set up in Sage, and what we can do is we can actually link to those additional charges and then just link the delivery service as well. So a couple of ways that this can handle. You can handle it all from the front end. So by setting up the different charges, linking to the delivery service, as we add those additional charges to a sales order, then that's going to determine who we're going to use. Or as I've got in my demo environment today, I'm actually going to choose that as I dispatch. Okay, a couple of other things that need to be considered as well. First things first is in terms of the address, you'll have the full untruncated addresses set up, and then it's all driven from your sales order. So as we put on a sales order in the system, I'm actually going to pick our Cycon account today. Ignore this pop-up in the next one. That's because I've got other Cycon add-ons installed, which is why my menu is far busier than yours would be. So nothing too different here. You're going to pick your account, the requested promise dates, the delivery service. So I mentioned the other option you've got is being able to set it on the sales order. So again, you could either do it based on the line level there, so adding the additional charges, delivery service, or as I keep repeating, doing it on the handheld and letting the warehouse determine which service they're going to use. I'm just going to keep it simple today, and I'm going to add my good old espresso machine on there. So as I add the espresso machine, I'll just dispatch one of those. Nothing different on the line level there at all. In terms of your delivery and invoicing address, I'm just going to pick our head office here. So again, because we're now linking to the third-party courier, being able to tell them that this is the city, this is the county, the address. That's why we will need you to switch on the full address details. But again, so long as it's a valid address, so DPD in this instance are going to validate that it's a valid collection and a valid delivery address. So again, just making sure that your addresses are correct. So you can see I've filled those in there. Country code as well is key because that needs to be pulled across. And I can also add things in like the delivery instructions. So please leave with reception or a neighbour, whatever that would be. So once I've got my order set up, I'm going to save that. The rest now is standard Sage process. So from here, you've got your sales order number. You can print your pick list if you want to. You can, well, I've got auto allocate, and you can dispatch. Now I'm actually going to do this in the barcoding, just again show you how that's going to work. But it could well be as we dispatch, it's then going to print the courier label. So 5594, if I come out to the barcoding utility, so Cycon barcoding is a separate module that's been out now for nigh on 3 years. It's utilizing Android-based technology. So I'm just sharing the screen of my Android device, using the same web API that we've developed that we're linking to the courier providers, and essentially updating Sage real time. So I'm going to go to dispatch a sales order, scroll to the bottom there, and you can see there's my order. I haven't had to synchronize anything. So all of this is, again, the standard process. I've actually got pick, pack, and dispatch set up on my system. So we can see there the promise date, the key contacts that I've set up. As I scroll along, I can pick the item. I'm actually going to pick it into a box. So again, this is barcoding functionality. I can just give it a value. And again, I could print a label if I wanted to for the box. And I'm going to pick this into that particular box. You don't have to have the pick, pack, dispatch in barcoding if you don't wish, but I'm now going to pack it, and I'm going to pack it into that same box. So again, I could have created the boxes at that stage if I wanted to. So the pick, pack, and then the final dispatch is all the same. So at this stage, I can now dispatch all of my packed items. And because I've got mine set up, as I mentioned earlier, where we're going to enable the warehouse operative to select the courier, that service that they're going to use, that's why I get the pop-up. Of course, we spoke about some of the options that if you're setting it at the front end, that just wouldn't appear. So I'm going to go DPD next day. It's going to ask would I like to dispatch, and I'm going to say yes, I would. Now, again, this is barcoding functionality. I can enter the weights and the measures of the box or the boxes I'm using, and I'm going to click on dispatch. Now, I've got an issue, I think, with the dispatch note, so that's not going to print. So it's just telling me there it wasn't able to print the dispatch note. But actually, what it's done is it has printed me a courier label. So this is where a lot of stuff's now going off in the background. It's sending out via the API to DPD. In this instance, it's validating the addresses, as I mentioned earlier. It's doing whatever it needs to do on the DPD side, and I'm going to get a label come back. So actually, what does that look like? So if I come in and I view my order on the, if I just close out for this, if I go to my dispatches, there's the lines, and you'll have this courier labels button. And if I click on courier labels, we can see there the dispatch labels. If I just view that, that's opened up, and there's my label. So there's the, again, just to show you, this is live link to the DPD test environment. There's the notes that I put there for the info, delivery address, key contact, and the address from where we're sending it. And it is as simple as that. Now, when I say it's as simple as that, it's actually not that simple behind the scenes because, for example, Palletways, theirs is slightly different. They need to know the weights, dimensions of the pallet. There's a delay whilst that gets processed, and then it comes back with some information. So we've had to add in to be able to delay those processes. We've also built in integration with the Cycon documents, so the distribution of the Cycon documents, whereby at the point of dispatch, we can actually send out an email with HTML, the body of the email with the courier delivery number or collection number, whatever the terminology there is, as well as then a nice PDF attachment of the dispatch note as well. So again, we've got further integrations with the Sicon elements. But essentially, in terms of what we've done, it's that. So I think just to summarize, and then Richard, I guess I'll open up just to see if there are any questions on that, whether we want to drill into any other areas. But what we've tried to do is keep the user front end as simple as possible. So in terms of your standard process, happening where it needs to. The back end is where the clever stuff happens. But again, you don't need to worry about that. That's going to be set up again via the API. Now, it will need to grow and enhance over time. There's lots of projects on the go at the moment with other couriers, as I mentioned, that's going to be required. Things like we're also looking at being able to in future releases, there's no timescales on this, but actually look at the weights or the number of boxes, and then actually filter down the couriers based on a little bit of logic. But again, it's one of those, as we start working with more and more customers, this will grow and evolve. So I guess, Richard, back to yourself. Have there been any questions at all in the chat?
Brilliant, Steve. No, not yet, but obviously there's still time to put you on the spot. So yeah, obviously if you have got any questions in terms of how this works, how it integrates, how it potentially works with barcoding, then feel free to either raise your hand electronically, unmute yourself, or just pop them into the chat, and we'll be happy to try and answer. I think, as you said, Steve, there is a lot going on in that background in terms of how it works. I mean, it looks so simple, but passing the information through and just preventing that reduplication of or entering of information into other systems can save so much time on that dispatch process.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And I think so the design and development methodology here at Sicon, what we do is, and barcoding was a great example of that, is you've got two ways of looking at releasing a product. You can either spend a couple of years writing something, trying to make it absolutely perfect, and then release it. The benefits of that, great, you ticked all the boxes, but the problem is the industry, everything's probably moved on in those 2 years, so you've fallen behind. What we do is we have a concept. So, for example, Courier Integration, there's a demand. We've got customers wanting something fully integrated with what we do with Sage. So we develop version 1.0, with those ones, get it to a state where it's able to now be utilized and dropped in for those customers who are already using, for example, DPD or Palletways or Royal Mail. But then it will evolve over time. And I think back to barcoding when we first launched that, the response was phenomenal. In terms of just using modern tech, using Sage as your core base rather than a third-party system, cost effective as well. Compared to other solutions. So absolutely, customers loved it. But again, as you start to demonstrate the product, work with other customers, that's then unearths their nuances, I guess, for want of another phrase. So, what about this scenario? What about that? And the product's just evolved, and it'll be no different with this one. Already we've got, I've mentioned the Palletways one already. That's just one which, if we'd have tried to develop it without that knowledge, and we don't do what you do every day, we wouldn't have known some of those complexities. So for me, having worked in a number of sectors, and both enterprise level down to SME, it's the right way to develop. It also means for the customers as well, they're working with us to provide something which is hopefully going to work for them. Now, we don't write bespoke, of course, but that's going to work for them, but also the wider piece. And this is where, again, I'm on the screen there. If you have a look at the Happy User Guide with the next release and the release after that, you're going to start to see additional increases. And we've already got a long list of couriers that customers want us to work with. And as they start their projects and we start then with those integration, that will increase. But as I said, lastly, feel free to have a look. This is section 7. That's just about the email that we were talking about earlier. But yeah, hopefully it's been useful. If you want a more tailored discussion, perhaps look at the wider picture, again, just let Darren and Richard know. And Richard, as you know, happy to always jump on a call or do a one-to-one demonstration as required.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks so much.
I've got a quick question. I'm just conscious that if we're adding lots of delivery addresses into the system, is there a quick way of looking up addresses?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. I suppose depends which way you're looking to add it on, I suppose, Darren. You've got the way doing it there, I think, within Sage, just the way that I did it. Alternately, CRM, as you put orders on, slightly different view potentially of adding those in. I mean,
we've got an address code lookup link, I think, haven't we, as well?
Oh, sorry, I'm with you on that. You mean locate? Yes, sorry, I'm with you now. Yeah, I don't think I've got the link in, but actually what we've developed is we've developed a link with a company called Locate. Now that I can't remember I think it's GBG is the parent company who own it, and I only found out we've been working with this now for a good couple of years. We've had it in the system, in the software. We've probably not really pushed it as much as we should. I actually found out my sister's the CTO of the company that we do it with, and I never knew. It shows how it's not that we're not a close family, but it shows how much I listen to what she does. But basically, yeah, it's a bit of software where it's just a link, again using the API. So as you add on your order, and I don't know if I've got it installed in here. Let's just have a quick look. As we go to add the delivery address, no, we haven't. What you'll have is you'll have a little icon where essentially you can click on there, and it's just as if you go to a website where you enter the postcode and it then starts to pull down the addresses and it just populates it in there. But there's a little icon that you would see which looks like a map, and it just integrates with this locate. There is a licensing with them where you have to I think it's a price per search or something like that, but it is minuscule. But yeah, if you are putting on a lot of orders, you're absolutely right, Darren, a utility like that would really help. So again, happy to send us some details on that as requested.
Brilliant stuff.
Excellent. Any other questions at all?
Not seen any come across, so we'll bring it to a close, and obviously just thank everybody for joining the session today. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to us at EBS or Steve at Sicon. I'm sure you'll always be willing to speak to anybody regarding the products. Thank you, and obviously check out our website for other webinars that we're running over the next few weeks, and we'll hopefully see you on them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.